I'm about to say evening. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Mental Health Talk with yours truly. I am Christina McIntyre. I hope that y'all had the best week that y'all could. If not, don't focus on what happened yesterday. Let's focus on what's now and what's coming in the future. First, give a shout out to my sponsor, Flawless Tires. You can find them at 1195 Chester Pike. Make sure you stop by there and pay them a visit. Uh, Coming up on June 19th, there will be an event. Lashes and Cocktails is throwing a Juneteenth event at the Chester Fine Arts Center, located at 17 East 7th Street here in Chester, Pennsylvania. It is a free event, but if you want to be in with the raffles and they giving out prizes, you have to register at Eventbrite. If you go to my page, you'll see the link to that. The first 25 people get a glam bag, and then the next 25 people will get a swag bag. So make sure you come out and support the small businesses in our communities and help them grow. The topic for this week. So this week, I wanted to have an open discussion about the propaganda towards black men and the negative effects in our community. First, I wanted to get a little information about, the mental health, because it is related to mental health. 1 in 5 people suffer from mental health each year, and out of those, 13.4% is African American, and 16% of that population have mental health, and then about 9% of those are men that suffer from mental health. And it's important because men are often overdiagnosed or underdiagnosed because of the stigma that black men may have in this community. So I'm going to give a brief definition of what propaganda is, and then we're going to have some conversation. And then I do have a guest today. Mike is to my left, and he will be joining me in on the conversation. So the definition of propaganda is a set of strategies to persuade someone to believe in an idea, support a cause, or buy a product. They can do this through influence or manipulative people, they can influence or manipulate people. They often exaggerate the truth, and a lot of this contains hidden messages. And there are 7 different ways of propaganda techniques. The first one is bandwagon. It's like you jump on board. Second is name calling. Basically talking about a candidate, or like you can say, I guess I could do Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a big baby, so that's name calling. Testimonial. Most of the time they get a celebrity or a doctor to say this product is a great idea, so you can buy it. Glittering generality. Plain folks. That is a way to get people to feel like they're part of, I guess, the whole population. Then card stacking, and then transfer. And so I'm going to ask Mike, how does he feel about the propaganda towards black men in our community and the negative impact it's having?
Well, when we think about propaganda, if you could take it from so many different directions. There are so many negative information that's put out there in the universe about, African American males. And I mean, it's almost like when we went to war in Iraq and all that jazz, and people was talking about how the Marines were crazy, and in order to be a Marine, you had to kill a family member and eat their heart. That's what the enemy was telling his troops, because they were trying to make them, think that we were unworthy of living. Oh, you would kill a family member and eat their heart and all this jazz. But see, it kind of worked in reverse. And what it made them was afraid of us. And remember, they burned all the oil fields and everything else and all this craziness. It just made them afraid. So they wouldn't protect their positions. But propaganda can be received in so many ways. It's the reason why, as an African American male, I mean, we're pretty much painted as savages. We're painted as lazy. All we do is have sex, and procreate. Whenever you look at any chart in America, we normally will top it, even though it's only about, I don't know, 13%, 12, 13% of Americans are African American. The African American male typically tops all charts when it comes down to negative stuff. Even our infant mortality rate is like way higher than what anything else is. And if you're painted as a monster, people, when they never have experience with you or meet you, they're going to view you as a monster. And so it's always like if someone is going to hire you for a job and you got an African American and you got a Caucasian American, most likely because of all the propaganda that's constantly passed about African Americans, you're going to go with the Caucasian.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes though, depending on if they have to meet, certain companies have to meet a quota of how many women and how many different races that they have to have. So they may choose that black person just to fit the quota, not because they necessarily want them in their company. Like I found my experience with propaganda with black men, you always see images on TV. I know it was an article, I can't recall who was the person on the front of the magazine, but they were depicted like an ape. Like I think it was a woman they were holding or something like that. And I'm just like, wow. And so when people, like especially children growing up, and they see these images of people that look like them, they're gonna start to feel some type of way about themselves. Like, it's not enough black representation and in the community and in our world. And I think we need to do a better job at getting that, but it's so many negative images, and black people are talked about, especially black men, like they are like the bottom of the toe, like they don't take care of their families, or they are poorer than everyone else. I mean, that is true, but it's not like ingrained facts, right? And I think it's just sad that you have these things and people are afraid of black people just because of what society puts out there. And I think we do it to ourselves to an extent, though. We talk about ourselves, we call ourselves names and stuff, and then get mad when other people do it to us. But we have to come together better as a community and uplift our community. And
Well, I think that for the most part, we're still under like the influence of Jim Crow. We're still under the influence of pig laws. I think that we're still under the influence of a country that never really viewed us as people. I mean, look at it this way. The infant mortality rate in black folks is 11%. The infant mortality in white children at birth is 2.3. So 11% of our children die at birth. 2.3 Caucasian children die at birth. Now, when you look at that on a larger scale, what it tells me is we're unfairly educated. What it tells me is that the healthcare system is not for us. What it tells me is that, working America is like against us, because if you look at how much money the average African American family makes in a year, it's less than any other race in this country. And the sad part about everything is it's not like it's a hidden fact. And so what this does, in a sense, because like I said, to keep black people like oppressed, to keep them down, to keep them feeling the way that they feel, it's so many things that's like going into that bucket, and eventually we feel that way about ourselves. If you go to college and you do your best and you're trying to make an honest living and you're still making less than people who are educated at the collegiate level the same way. Because see, once you hit college, that's when education becomes fair across the board.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It doesn't matter, like, you know, you can go to school, get a degree, and you're still making less than, and it's like black women make more than black men. And, you know, in a white race, white men typically make more than, you know, white
Everyone.
women. And so it's sad. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's like we try our best and we still get shut down. And my whole thing is like, how do we come and solve this like major crisis that's happening right now? I think education is important. The more that we educate ourselves, the more that we learn. Because I honestly didn't know a lot about this. Not saying I didn't know what was going on, but it's so much deeper. A lot of more videos. I've seen videos coming out about, you know, the injustice of, you know, black people that I didn't even know about. So I think it's important that we continue to learn. And I think some people, they just, you know, I guess if you don't know about it, it doesn't affect you. But you have to care about your community because this is where you live at. And if something affects our community, you know, let's say the outsiders come in and they take it away, and then people are upset because this is not their community no more. But what are you doing to make it better? And I think it starts with the individual, and we have to fight together. And it is a hard fight because we've been fighting for a very long time, and to go up against, you know, the government and get these people in power, a lot of us are afraid to step outside of that box. Like, we're comforted, and just like, you know, a lot of us depend on welfare for, you know, assistance, and I do too. And it's like, we don't want to do certain stuff because we don't want to get it taken away. Like, we don't want to think outside of the box. And so now what do we do if they took everything that we depend on them away? We have to depend on ourselves and our community. And that's why it's important that we put back into our communities what it lacks. And it's so, the community is so unique. Everybody is good at a lot of different things, and if we just focus on that and build up our, you know, from infancy, like when children are born, you know, feed into them positivity, you know, teach them about ourselves. A lot of children grow up, they don't know what black and white is, and that's important to know too. Like, children don't learn about race until they get, I think, into middle school, but you have to teach children about, you know, their love for themselves and their family and their community. That way we can definitely get across this, but it's definitely something that needs to be taken care of really quickly, because I can see definitely a decline in services that we desperately need.
Can I interject
Yeah.
something? Think about this. So, welfare is just another form of slavery in a sense. So, when slavery existed, and I think this adds to mental health, it adds to anxiety, it adds to depression. So, when slavery was in its traditional form, what did they do? They removed the male from the house. They emasculate that man.
Yeah.
You know, this man is nothing. You know what I mean? And when you think about all of the forces, this is so complex and it's so layered. When you think about all of the forces that even subliminally we feed into, that we continue to be affected by today. So the master gave the slaves everything they needed, everything they wanted. And if they did something against the master, it's taken away. Yeah. So, of course, what the master gave you was what he made you feel was security. Yeah. And security to modern day slavery is the mindset that, well, it's Christmas time. If I work overtime, I can buy my kids presents, right? So they created this whole, oh, you gotta live outside of your means, and around this time, this day, you have to do this for your kids. And most people wind up feeling depressed because they can't buy those presents. But that's not what I'm shooting for at the moment. So what winds up happening is people choose not to work harder because you have to choose between doing these things for your children or having enough food on the table. Yeah. Doing these things for your children or your children having health care. Doing these things for your children or you losing your Section 8. So it's really a form of modern day slavery because you don't get whipped you're not going to have these scars and marks on your back, but what's going to happen is you get whipped by them snatching stuff away. That's the crack of the whip. Snatch it away. Let you fall on your face. The fear of losing everything, the anxiety of losing everything. And so in place of that, people typically wind up coming up with ways to try to beat the system or get around the system. And typically wind up, I even believe like the way that our children are being labeled with disabilities, the rate that our children get labeled with disabilities, it helps to feed that propaganda machine. It helps for children to, it feeds into the idea, the thought process once children understand I am defective. I'm not as good as these other kids. So it works against their self-esteem. It builds anxiety. It builds depression. It's so layered, but I totally get where you're coming from. So we do have to feed our children more, and we have to become better educated about the way that these processes affect our community.
Yeah, I wanted to touch about the welfare. So yeah, like welfare is supposed to help you. They put that in place so that you can get a better job, but these jobs just don't pay enough. Even $15 an hour is not substantial enough for, let's say, a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment. I know where I live at, rent is like $900 for a 1-bedroom, nothing included. And then it's like when you pass that like income bracket, they kick you off of everything. So now you're paying, food out of pocket and insurance out of pocket. And what I was reading earlier, like let's say, they say typically, in a community like this, a lot of black men have been arrested and stuff like that. And so when they come home, it's harder for them to find a job. So the woman is basically the head of the household. And then if she is, you can't have a man living with you to continue to collect. But he is trying, right? And he can't get, a job that he needs. Not saying it's not possible, it is, but it's harder. And so a lot of times they may turn to something that doesn't seem deemed in society as, appropriate just to make ends meet. And so that label, and black men go to jail for the same thing as a white man, they most likely get a harsher sentence. Yeah. So the society isn't fair against black men, and we got to figure out a way to break that so that this doesn't keep happening. And then just like you said with the children, like my son has ADHD, and I try not to tell him like that's what they label him as. I wish I could go back and take it back, but he's hyperactive, right? And it's a shame, like they don't sit down there and figure out, okay, maybe he needs, or these children need a special school that can cater to that. Maybe they're creative in a different way. Like everybody doesn't think the same and work the same way, but because, school is set up that way, he doesn't fit that standard. Okay, we're going to give them this label. And then eventually, like some parents will continuously label that child just so that they can get a check. Like I've had people come to me and be like, oh, why don't you get your son? Why am I going to put him more under a label so that when he gets further along, they're going to be like, oh, he's been in trouble since he was like, let's say in the first grade. And so they get stuck in that system, and that affects everyone. And then it's just a continued cycle. Like I know, like for my mom, she's been on welfare since she probably was like 20. She's like 65 now. And so people get stuck in the cycle, and then we have these propaganda against us, but we have to kind of take ownership back of our responsibility in it as well.
Well, the problem is with the propaganda that's put out about and it comes from all angles. It comes from Hollywood. It comes from different organizations, but it helps to form the national opinion of what a black man is in society. Yeah. I mean, let me tell you, so this is a pet peeve of mine. Black hood movies. I don't like black hood movies. I don't watch black hood movies. I'm not going to put that mess in my head. I don't watch black hood movies. And people say, oh, well, they're just, telling our story. Our story. This is about, our story. Let me tell you something. If it's a true story that happened, it's one thing. But when it's a total fabrication, it's another thing. It's literally another thing. Like for me personally, I don't need any fiction on shoot 'em up in the street. Because guess what? When I go to sleep at night, I hear gunshots. I don't need any shoot 'em ups, because guess what? If I did want to go to that to the store on the corner, and I know that's where, you know, the drug dealers or whatever hangs out, you know what I mean? If I know that's where most stuff go down at, you know what I mean? I don't need TV to see these things or be reminded of it. Now, for those people who live outside of the community, they have access to this stuff, and that is their almanac. That's the way they view us in real life. This is what we're going to do. This is why they assume we can all play basketball. Why? Because they see it on TV. Why we can all play football or dance? Because every time you look at TV, there's somebody tap dancing or twerking or shaking it out or hitting a home run or slamming a ball. But where's the everyday African American? Where's the nerdy African American? Why isn't it more movies about our achievements or what is regular every day? Because less than 1% of us is blessed to be athletically inclined, and even less for acting and stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, definitely the movies, like, you hardly see any. Let's say a regular movie, like a white movie, you might see one black person, and even like, in order to get like what BET, you have to pay for it. Or like, I know, you know, back in the day growing up, it was like what Family Matters and the Cosby Show, and they were the only, you know, TV shows that showed us like, society is not just like this, or our community is not just like what, you know, those movies. And it is a lot of movies that is about, you know, the thug life and the gang life, and then the girl gets the thug and then all this stuff. And that is what, you know, being what a black man is. And I think it's just so sad, because there are a lot of strong, educated black men. I have 3 brothers, and each one of them, they have a job, they take care of their children, they are good family men, they work hard. And so that whole lie about black men are not effective in, you know, their family lives and their children's life is false. But just because they see it on TV, they take that and run with it. Like, I had a old friend. She had one bad experience with a black man, and then all of a sudden all black men are like this. But you had way more bad experience with white men, but you chose this one scenario because her family, you know, didn't like black men. And so it goes on, like, that negative energy. People don't think, like, energy travels. And so when white parents raise their children to be racist, and then the next generation becomes racist, like, racism is taught. It's not a thing, because you can place 2 children in a room of different races, and they will play and play and play. They don't see skin color. Like, my son didn't see skin. He didn't know what black and white was until I think towards the end of kindergarten. And even now, you ask him what color is a white person, he'll say light. You're either light brown or dark brown. There's no black and white to him. And so it makes you think, like, it's they set this up years ago to keep it going. So I really don't understand why black people are so hated against. It's a skin color. It's like, we don't choose this, and even if we did, we will continue to choose it. And it sets us up that we have to work so much harder just to exist in this society.
Well, it was systematically put out that way. I mean, think about it this way. So if there now this might sound like bullshit to most people, but if there was a white person and a black person somewhere, and you was gonna freaking for comfort level, you will probably always go to the black person. But for something you want to believe or some information that you may need on the spot, you may choose to go to a white person if 2 people were available and one happened to be black, one happened to be white. Now, this isn't some old racist stuff or something, and believe it or not, I'm far from racist. But what I do know is that when a deck has been stacked a certain way, the view that people have on us is the view that was created. See, race started coming about, I think, like in the 16th century, and prior to that, we were Moors. We were Moors, not black, white, and most people were called wherever their last name or whatever their description was, where they was from. It would be like if they said Mike of Chester, or Mike of the Moors. If you was going to associate me, you would associate me with my heritage. You know what I mean? Not the color of my skin. But race is a social construct. And if race truly didn't matter, it wouldn't be on applications. A name is a name. But we even found out, no matter what people put in place, there is always that catch-22. So if they didn't say race, the next thing people will look at is your name. Is your name. And the sad part about everything, that most of the aggressions that have been put out there, and I know people probably going to be mad that I say it, I believe that it's through Christianity. I mean, look at the Crusades and stuff. Like, historically, a lot of things have been put forth through either the Roman Catholic Church and through Christianity and the spread of Christianity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the Bible definitely talks about slaves and stuff, and that's why I believe in God wholeheartedly, but for me, the Bible, it tells of a story that happened so many years ago that a lot of it still exists to this day, and I think people are just ignorant about what's really happening. I think if it doesn't directly affect us, we don't worry about it, right? Mm-hmm. Just like with the killings with the black men and women, and a lot of people care, but if it's not directly affecting us, we don't tend to worry about it. But I think we just need to stand up and make a lot of noise, and I think it's happening. More and more black people are waking up and seeing what's going on and stuff, but it has to be a continuous collective effort in order to make long-term changes. And I really don't honestly believe that I will see the whole overall change in my lifetime. It may take some years of all the racist people getting washed out, our government being rebuilt in order to see unity and just fairness across the board. But
let me tell you, the whole situation really reminds me of our culture, reminds me of the state of our culture reminds me of Christmas lights. You ever put up your Christmas tree, Christmas is over, you take everything down, you put them in a bin, and we don't bother to sort it all out. When you pull it back out the next year, the lights are so entangled, and it takes you so long to try to get, it's like, where do you start? And our situation was so masterfully crafted that that's what it becomes. Where do you start? And because it's such a mess, you can't even have a conversation about it, because the conversation will go from equal rights to unfair sentencing to welfare. It's so entangled that you can only touch on the tip of the iceberg, and nobody truly moves into a position to really incite and enact change.
Yeah, I think it's gonna I agree. It's just gonna take some time. People just get more educated, and I hate to stop, but it's basically the end of the show. But definitely, maybe we will continue this topic, because it's definitely an important topic. We need to learn. And honestly, I had no idea what propaganda was until a couple weeks ago, and so I'm trying to educate myself more on learning about these different things, and I think it's important that we continue to educate ourselves more. But definitely, I thank y'all for tuning in. Thank Mike for joining me in on this conversation. I'm gonna see if I can, maybe bring this up again, but definitely go to my website, check it out, www.becomeyourc.com. I talk about the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Visit me on Instagram, Become Your C, Facebook, BYC, Become Your C. I'm also on TikTok now, BYC, Become Your C. Make sure that you take care of yourself, make sure your mental is intact, and then try to do the best that you can each and every day. Become more of yourself each and every day. Fall in love with yourself so the world can fall in love with you. Till next time.
I put up my little peace fingers. I was trying not to
Is this still on?
What you say? I was trying not to overwhelm. Yeah.